I'm standing in a dungeon cell right now. Stone walls, iron bars, the smell of mold and despair. You want to know what landed me here? Not theft, not murder, not treason, taxes. My name is Gregor. I'm a decorated guard who's defended this city for 12 years. I've faced bandits, raiders, even a small army once. I've been stabbed, burned, and nearly killed more times than I can count. But none of that put me in chains. A piece of parchment did. A tax scroll. Numbers I didn't understand. Records I didn't keep. And a Royal Taxman who smiled when he said the word dungeon. Here's what nobody tells you. You can be completely honest, work hard your entire life, and still end up destroyed by a system you don't understand. Honesty without documentation is just expensive ignorance. This is the story of how I went from defending a kingdom to being its prisoner. How I discovered that the most dangerous enemy isn't wielding a sword. It's wielding a ledger. And how I learned that the difference between freedom and chains is one simple system. But here's the twist you won't see coming. The taxman who put me here, he wasn't the villain. And when you find out who the real enemy was, everything you think you know about this story will flip upside down. Let's begin. 12 years ago, I became a city guard, 20 years old. Strong, capable, proud. The job paid 30 silver marks per month. Decent money. Enough to live on, with some left over. The captain explained the duties: patrol the gates, stop smugglers, protect citizens, defend the walls. Standard guard work. I was good at it. Really good. What he didn't explain was the other part. The part that would eventually destroy me. Taxes. Every guard received the same speech on their first day. You are responsible for your own tax obligations. Keep records, report your income, pay quarterly. Failure to comply results in fines, then imprisonment. Questions? I had no questions, because I had no idea what I didn't know. Let me show you what my system looked like for the first 8 years of my career. 4 times a year, on quarter day, I'd receive a tax scroll from the Royal Treasury. It would have my name and a blank space where I was supposed to write my income and calculate my tax owed. The tax rate was simple: 20% of income. If you earned 30 marks per month, that's 720 marks per year. 20% of 720 is 144 marks. Simple math. I could do that. Except here's what I didn't understand. The law didn't tax gross income. It taxed net income. Income minus legitimate expenses. But what counted as a legitimate expense? The scroll didn't say. So I guessed. I'd subtract the cost of my uniform, my weapons maintenance, my boots, whatever seemed work-related. I'd calculate a number, write it down, pay the tax, hope for the best. For 3 years, this worked fine. I never heard anything back. I assumed I was doing it correctly. Year 4, I got audited. The Royal Taxman arrived at my quarters unannounced. His name was Castellan Rothgar. Tall, thin, dressed in the black robes of the treasury. He carried a leather case filled with scrolls. "Guard Gregor," he said without warmth. "Random audit. Show me your records." Records? I had receipts? Some of them, in a box, unsorted. I showed him what I had. He examined them with the expression of someone looking at garbage. "Where's your income documentation?" "I'm a guard. The captain pays me 30 marks a month. That's my income." "Additional income? Tips? Gifts? Rewards for capturing criminals?" "Oh, yes, sometimes. I don't really track." "You don't track." He wrote something down. Not a good sign. "Expense documentation?" I showed him my pile of receipts. Some torn, some faded. No organization, no categories, no system. He spent an hour going through everything. Then he handed me a new scroll. Disallowed expenses, 90 marks. Undeclared income, estimated at 200 marks. Recalculated tax owed for the past 4 years, 680 marks. Plus penalties for poor record keeping, 340 marks. Plus interest, 170 marks. Total due immediately, 1,190 marks. The room spun. 1,190 marks. I'd never had that much money at once in my entire life. I don't have that. Then you'll be put on a payment plan, 30 marks per month. Any missed payment triggers additional penalties and possible imprisonment. 30 marks per month, my entire salary, meaning I'd have nothing to live on while I paid off tax debt from years I'd already worked. But I was honest. I paid what I thought I owed. Hrothgar looked at me with something between pity and contempt. Honesty without documentation is liability, guard. The kingdom doesn't audit your intentions. It audits your records. You have 90 days to make your first payment or appeal the assessment. Good day. He left. I sat in my quarters staring at the scroll. For the first time in my career, I understood. I had a more dangerous enemy than bandits, and I had no idea how to fight it. I paid the first month, 30 marks, my entire salary. A friend loaned me money for food and rent. I paid the second month, borrowed more. By month 3, I was drowning, not in water, in debt, in stress, in the constant terror of not understanding the rules of a game I was forced to play. I started asking other guards how they handled taxes. Most of them admitted they didn't understand it either. They guessed, they hoped, they got audited occasionally and paid fines. It was just an accepted part of life. Like winter, unpleasant but inevitable. A few guards had figured it out. They kept meticulous records. They knew exactly what could be deducted and what couldn't. They never got audited, or when they did, they owed nothing extra. I asked one of them, Marcus, to explain his system. It's simple, he said, showing me his ledger. I write down every single coin. Every coin in, every coin out, every reason. At the end of the quarter, I have documentation for everything. The taxman has nothing to question. But that takes so much time. It takes maybe an hour per week. Know what takes more time? Panicking every quarter day, arguing with auditors, paying penalties? I'll take the 1 hour. He was right. But I didn't start keeping records. Because I didn't truly believe I'd get audited again. Lightning doesn't strike twice, right? Wrong. Year 6, another audit. Different taxman, same outcome. More disallowed expenses. More undeclared income I'd forgotten about. Another massive fine. Year 8, another audit. This time I knew it was coming. I'd tried to keep better records but still didn't have a real system. Another fine. Smaller this time, but still painful. By year 8, I'd paid nearly 3,000 marks in back taxes, penalties, and interest. 3,000 marks that wouldn't have been owed if I'd just kept proper records from the beginning. But I still didn't fix it. You know why? Because the audits were random. Sometimes I'd go 2 years without one. And in those good years, I'd convince myself I was fine, that I'd gotten away with it, that maybe they'd forgotten about me. The human brain is incredibly good at avoiding uncomfortable truths. Then came the fire. Year 10. Autumn. The merchant district catches fire. Started in a bakery, spread fast. By the time we contained it, 40 buildings had burned. I was one of the first responders. I spent that entire night pulling people from burning buildings, organizing bucket lines, coordinating evacuations, saved 11 lives personally. The city gave me a commendation. The fire also destroyed my quarters. Not completely, but enough. Furniture damaged, clothing burned, personal possessions lost, including my box of financial records. What little documentation I had, gone. Ashes. 2 weeks later, Hrothgar appeared, the same taxman from 6 years ago. Older now, colder. Guard Gregor, audit time. Now, after the fire? Especially after the fire. Disaster brings opportunity for creative accounting. People often claim losses they didn't actually suffer. We've been instructed to audit all fire victims carefully. He wasn't here to help. He was here to hunt. I explained that my records had burned. I showed him the damage to my quarters. Surely that would count for something. Without documentation, I can't verify your claims. Show me what you have. I had nothing. Everything had burned. Then I'll reconstruct your tax obligation from city wage records and estimated expenses. You have no documentation to contradict my estimates. He spent an hour calculating. When he finished, he showed me the scroll. Based on standard guard income, typical expenses, and lack of documentation for any claimed losses, your tax obligation for the past 2 years is 800 marks. You've paid 400. You owe 400 immediately. But the fire destroyed. Without documentation, the fire is irrelevant. You could claim anything burned. The kingdom can't operate on hearsay. I'm a decorated guard. I have a commendation. I saved 11 people. And the kingdom appreciates your service. His voice was ice. The kingdom also requires its taxes. 400 marks, due in 30 days. Failure to pay results in imprisonment for tax evasion. Not a payment plan, not a negotiation. Prison, 30 days, 400 marks. I had maybe 40 marks in savings. That night, I sat in my damaged quarters and understood something that changed everything. I wasn't going to make it. I'd spent 10 years fighting this wrong, and now I was out of time. I could fight bandits all day, but I couldn't fight this, unless I learned how. I went to the Royal Archives, not looking for tax law, looking for someone who understood systems. Strategy, how to win impossible fights. I found Alaric, former royal spymaster, 70 years old, retired after 40 years of keeping the kingdom safe through intelligence, not violence. Now he spent his days reading history and occasionally consulting on matters of strategy. I told him everything. The decade of audits, the penalties, the fire, the 30-day deadline, the prison sentence waiting. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked one question. How much of this is actually your fault? I wanted to say none of it. I wanted to blame the system, the taxman, the impossible complexity. But that would be a lie. Most of it, I admitted. I knew I needed records. I knew other guards had systems. I just didn't want to deal with it. It felt overwhelming, so I avoided it. And now I'm paying for 10 years of avoidance. Alaric nodded. Good. You understand the real problem. Now we can fix it. In 30 days, it's impossible. No, it's very possible. But we need to reframe how you think about this entire situation. He pulled out a blank scroll and drew a simple diagram. A castle under siege. You think you're fighting the taxman. You're not. The taxman is just doing his job. He's the opposing army, yes, but armies follow rules. If you understand the rules, you can defend yourself. Your real enemy is chaos, disorganization, the lack of information. That's what's breaching your walls. So we're going to build defenses, information defenses. He divided the scroll into sections. Intelligence warfare has 3 principles. First, know your territory. Every coin you earn is territory you control. If you don't know where it is, you don't control it. Second, know your enemy's movements. Every coin you spend is an enemy deployment. If you don't track it, you can't counter it. Third, fortify your position. Your tax obligation isn't a monster. It's a calculation. If you control the inputs, you control the output. He pushed the scroll toward me. For the next 30 days, your full-time job isn't guarding. It's information warfare. Reconstruct what you can. Document everything going forward. Build a system so strong that no auditor can breach it. But I can't prove what burned in the fire. Then don't. Prove what didn't burn. Your salary, city records, your necessary expenses, standard guard equipment costs are documented. Housing, rent records exist. Food, market price averages. You won't get everything, but you'll get enough to show you're not hiding anything. The taxman's advantage is your ignorance. We're going to eliminate that advantage completely. For the first time in 30 days, I felt something other than panic. I felt like I had a plan. The next 29 days were the hardest I'd ever worked. Not physically, mentally. Alaric helped me build what he called the campaign scroll, a complete financial intelligence system. Day 30, Hrothgar arrived precisely on time. He brought 2 guards. He expected me to fail. He expected to arrest me. I handed him my campaign scroll. Before you speak, review this. He looked annoyed, but he opened it, started reading. His expression changed. The smugness faded. He flipped through pages, checked documentation, cross-referenced numbers. He spent an hour examining everything. Then he did his own calculations on a separate parchment. Finally, he looked up. He made notes on his own scroll. Recalculated tax obligation for the 2-year period, 420 marks, minus payments already made of 400 marks. Balance due, 20 marks. 20 marks, not 400. 20. However, he wasn't done. Due to extraordinary effort in documentation and obvious good faith compliance going forward, I'm waiving the 20-mark balance and closing this audit as fully satisfied. He stamped my scroll. Paid in full. Additionally, based on this review, I'm flagging your account to prevent future random audits unless specifically triggered by discrepancy. If you maintain this level of documentation, you'll likely never hear from me again. I'm 37 now, still a guard, but different. I teach a class now, once a month, for new recruits. It's called Financial Defense. I show them how to build their own campaign scroll, how to never end up where I was. Last month, Hrothgar attended my class. He sat in the back, took notes. Afterwards, he approached me. "Can we talk privately?" We went to my quarters. He looked uncomfortable, unusual for him. "I need to tell you something about your audits." "What about them?" "They weren't random. None of them were random." The floor seemed to tilt. "What?" "Someone was reporting you, every year, claiming you were evading taxes." My blood went cold. "Who?" "I can't officially tell you, but..." He paused. "Have you noticed you haven't been audited once in 5 years? Since you built your system?" "Yes." "Because the report stopped, right after your last audit. When you proved everything was documented, whoever was reporting you realized there was nothing to find anymore. They gave up." "Who was it?" Hrothgar looked at me carefully. "Someone who wanted your position. Someone who thought if you were imprisoned for tax evasion, there'd be an opening." The realization hit like a punch. Marcus, the guard who'd shown me his perfect ledger, who'd explained how easy it was, who'd never offered to help me build one. He destroyed 10 years of my life for a promotion. Hrothgar stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. "For what it's worth, your class has cut guard-related tax audits by 80%. You've saved hundreds of people from what happened to you. That's a better legacy than Sergeant." After he left, I sat alone, angry, betrayed, but also understanding something profound. The real enemy was never the taxman. The real enemy was never Marcus. The real enemy was my own willful ignorance, my own avoidance, my own choice to not do the work. And once I faced that enemy, once I actually fought it, everything else fell away. Some guards still hate paperwork, still avoid tracking their finances, still hope they'll never get audited. I smile when I hear that, because I know what they don't. The dungeon is always waiting. The only question is whether you'll build the key before you need it. I built mine. Took me 10 years too long. Cost me 3,000 marks in penalties. But I built it. And now Now I sleep at night. Because the most dangerous enemy I ever faced was defeated by a simple scroll, a system, and the willingness to finally do the work. The end. But not really. Because your campaign scroll? That starts today. What are you waiting for? And if you love my stories and more like this, please click on the follow and like button.